Hi everyone, thanks for joining the stream today. Got a couple of guests on today, and AJ is running a little bit late, so he will be joining the stream in a bit. But I think he's actually put a comment in the comments. But yeah, welcome to the stream. Just a couple of hours today, as the banner's saying. But it's just a general discussion. But you know, if there's a topic that anyone wants to raise, then we can by all means discuss. And yeah, so we've got Dan's Man Cave here today.
Hello everyone.
And we've got Ian the Ramblings with us as well.
Hello.
Would each of you just like to say a little bit about your channel and what the content is? If you want to start, Dan.
Yes, the channel's Dan's Man Cave. I've been going for about 5 or 6 years here. So yeah, new pickups, reviews, unboxings. My next lot of videos, because I haven't made a video for nearly a month, I'm going to be doing my top 10 favourite movie stars, about 10 videos, 10 of my favourite films from them. And I stress the point movie stars because some people may say they're not necessarily good actors. So you can imagine like someone like Schwarzenegger's going to be in it, things like that. But and other than that, I may do the odd topic video. But my channel, the content will come literally when I've got time. So I've got quite a busy schedule.
Yeah. Cool. And Ian?
I've been doing this more seriously through my son encouraging me for about 6 months, and I just thought I'll do what I wanted to do, which is just talk about the passions I've got. Therefore, my channel is like I do reviews of films, TV series, music. I like music a lot, so I put that in. Collecting, I'm a big collector, and also it's about nostalgia. And I always have a philosophy that everything I try and do is positive. I give a positive review virtually on anything, and if I don't like something, I don't see any point in reviewing it, and it's not going to be in my collection anyhow. Because, you know, when you collect with space, it's so important. So I don't have things that I don't like or I'm not going to play. I collect. And that's it, really. And nostalgia. A lot of it is about nostalgia. Though I do modern things. You know, I like, you know, Doctor Who, Hammer films a lot. And, you know, anything really that's nostalgia, sci-fi, horror, you know, and collecting. That's it, really.
Cool. Cool. Well, please go and if you don't subscribe to both Dan and Ian, please go and check out the channels and yeah, give them a sub, please. That'd be really really great. So yeah, as I say, there's no particular subject today. I mean, hopefully we'll get some comments in. But is there anything you'd like to discuss at all today? Is there any particular topic you'd like to discuss, or shall we start with maybe what films you've watched recently, or I don't mind.
Oh, fair. Yeah, I'll go. The topic I mentioned to you about, I'd like to get onto a bit when AJ's back, because me and him grew up just a few miles from each other, so I think it's quite relevant.
Cool.
But film wise, well, this isn't a film, but I think it was on the stream last time, the war one we done. I did pick up Blackadder, £1.50 from a charity shop, so I'm going to be getting on with that. I watched a really good film the other day, actually, called Let Him Go, with Kevin Costner and Diane Lane. It's kind of a bit of a modern Western, where the daughter-in-law, widowed, she marries into a new, violent, quite powerful family. So I'd really recommend that one. But other than that, I've just been going over some older films. I've been on a bit of Seagal and Van Damme like marathon recently, but only the earlier stuff, the better stuff. I don't know why, but yeah, I've just been fixated on watching documentaries about them as well.
Oh, cool. What about
That's
you,
about it.
Ian?
Let's see. What review? Oh yeah. Hammer film this week I did and reviewed, which is out today actually, is Brides of Dracula from 1960, which is supposedly a sequel to the first Dracula film, but Dracula's not in it. Anyhow, that's it. And so I watched that. I watched. Oh yeah, another review I did was Spearhead from Space, the very first Doctor Who third Doctor story in colour from 1970. So I've started to do some classic. I want people to enjoy classic Doctor Who as much. Then I watched Star is Born, Christopherson and Streisand, because I really like those two. And I actually got the CD of the soundtrack. I love the songs, and they're both artists and relevant artists themselves. And have both acted. Christopherson's acted in as quite a few interesting films, as well as Barbara Streisand as well.
Absolutely. Have you watched the
most important
the remake? Yeah. Have you watched the new one?
I must watch that to say it's very good, isn't it? The Lady Gaga one. I must get around to watching that. But most important film I watched was The Day the Earth Stood Still. I don't know how on earth I've missed that. I managed to pick it up online and really cheap. I thought I'll just try it. 1951, directed by Robert Wise, who is a fantastic director.
Yeah.
Only 6 years after nuclear bombs being dropped at the end of the Second World War. And it is an absolutely amazing film. I don't know why I've not known about this hardly before. Once I watched it, I read up a bit more, followed the extras. Fantastic film. And I've done a review. I was so excited. I did a review on it. I watched it a few more times. It's such a great film. Cool. Why have I missed this film?
Yeah.
Beginning at 1950s.
Yeah, sometimes,
the 50s is noted, isn't it, for sci-fi. Wow. Anyway, that's it.
No, that's cool. Yeah. There's a remake of that as well, wasn't there? Keanu Reeves, which I do have that film. It's not as it's not as good as probably the original, but I don't mind it. But I think I've seen the original once.
To watch it actually, because the film is so good. But I might watch I don't tend to like remakes if I love the film so much, but it might, I might give it a go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A couple of films I've been watching. One is a Seagal film, Dan. Under Siege 2. I've never seen that before. I'd seen Under Siege. I remember going to the cinema to see that.
What did you think? Because a lot of people slate it, but I didn't mind it.
No, I didn't mind it actually. I thought it was quite fun. Yeah, I mean it's. Oh, is AJ? Hi, AJ.
Sorry. Bloody traffic on the M25.
That's all right.
Sorry, go on, carry on. Where have you at?
I don't think it was quite as good as the first one, but it was. I mean, some things look a little bit dated now, but him on that top of the train, it was all right. I didn't mind it.
Oh dear.
And the other film I watched, which I really thought was really good, Lock. Have you seen that with
Tom Hardy?
Tom Hardy, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a brilliantly active film.
Yeah, all within the car.
Yeah.
I thought it was really, really good. Very clever, very original sort of premise. And I really enjoyed that film. That was on. I got that on. There's a streaming thing called Freevee where there's adverts in the middle, but there's no adverts on this one. But you can just. There's loads of films on there. So you don't pay any subscription. It's just like, ITV or BBC iPlayer, that kind of thing. But Just asking AJ what films everyone's been watching recently.
Blimey. Do you know what? I don't think I've watched anything new this week. I haven't watched nothing new. I tried watching Disenchanted the other about a week ago and switched it off. You know, the sequel to Enchanted. But yeah, I've not been watching much. The past week or so, it seems to have been really busy. Something might come to mind. Sorry, I'm like, I can't.
Well, you've done your obviously you did your trip to London vlog. That was really good. It's nice to see, you know, all the sort of London at Christmas time.
Yeah, I thought I'd go up a bit later than what I usually do to, you know, catch the lights. We went up sort of early afternoon. So that was 2 days ago that I actually went, but I couldn't post it till yesterday because when we got home, realised that I'd left the door keys inside. When we got to the door, I didn't have door keys on me. So then, and we didn't have car keys with us either, so we had to get a bus round to my dad's to pick up the spare keys, come back by bus. So anything that I'd bought, I'd left there anyway because of the weight of carrying it. Yeah, so it all it was a comedy of errors at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah.
Do you go up to central London at Christmas, Dan?
No, not at Christmas. I'm not a crowd person, or I go up. I'm that person when I go food shopping. I'm out in there when it opens and home. I can't deal with crowds anymore.
No.
Yeah, no, getting the tube back, getting on that tube train back. I couldn't do. I'm lucky. I work outside of sort of rush hour times. Yeah, it was horrible. But I'm the same with food shopping. It's 6 a.m. I'm up to go. Do you know what I mean? If I have to go Sainsbury's for myself, it'll be 6 a.m. up out down there for the door opening, in and out. I'm the same. Saying that, I went up to London about, I don't know, a few years back now, but we went up on Christmas Eve. Never been up there on a Christmas Eve before, and it was lovely. It was lovely. It wasn't busy. It was just very calm, and I was surprised.
Yeah, I know. I've been to London a couple of times with the family because my son's down in London studying. And the first time I went, obviously we've got all these, you know, train strikes, and I think just everyone is going to London when they can. And we went to Covent Garden, and it was just like, at one point I lost my wife and my daughter, and it was like, where they gone? You know, it's just like a sea of people, and I don't like it when it's like that. I just feel like, oh no, I need to get out of here. But yeah, it's can be a bit claustrophobic, can't it, when there's so many people?
I'm like that. Like yesterday is my missus' birthday, so she wanted to go Blue Water. Before we get some breakfast, I'm not a big fan of Blue Water, but they sat us in this restaurant, and it was literally like about a foot between each table, and it just all like went to all, and it just done me in. I just got up and I said to the guy who seated us, I said, it's not personal enough. I said, I can hear what either table's saying, and I'm quite opinionated, and I can rub people up the wrong way. And I thought, I've got to go, because I was, you know, when people look down their nose at you a bit, they think, oh, what are you doing in here? That's how I felt.
Yeah,
they don't even know who I am.
Yeah, not nice, that, is it? We've got a couple of comments come in. Obviously, you put a load of comments in here, AJ, but we've got one real nerd. Recently subscribed to him, and he says, yeah, he's saying this is cool, you should invite me. Yep, we'll try and get you on at some point.
We can do. I've got to apologise to, just before, I've got to apologise to Derek and James, Jim Jam, for last week, because obviously I didn't go live. I planned to go live with them early in the morning. I didn't, because I weren't feeling up for it. So apologies to them if they catch this, and I will sort that out and rearrange that with them to come on. Sorry, go on, Matt.
That's fine.
But yeah, we'll get One Real Nerd on. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I know at this time of the year, probably a lot of people are quite busy with shopping and all the rest of it. But I'm not sure whether we're doing one next week, are we? Because you're busy, aren't you?
No, I'm free next week.
Oh, okay.
As far as yeah, I'm free next week.
Okay. Maybe if we can do it on your channel, maybe next week and see who's available. I'm planning on trying to do a stream sort of between Christmas and New Year. I know Pete Playtendo guy, he said he's available. I'm not sure what day yet, but we'll sort of find out what people are doing sort of just before Christmas. Yeah, so we've got another comment. So now this probably mainly for Ian, yourself, and for AJ. I know Dan's not really a big Star Trek sort of, fan, really, are you, Dan? So after all, anyone seen Star Trek Discovery Season 4 yet? I'm finding it hard going. Seems to be a bit slow compared to the earlier seasons. So, have you seen it, Ian?
Normally, I buy it, and I'm having one of my Star Trek bad moments at the moment of what's been happening in Star Trek, and I haven't bought it. Or Picard, even the second season of Picard. I mean, as a completionist, I normally just buy them, but I'm seriously worried about watching. It's terrible, isn't it? I mean, the fact of watching a program. There's things I'd like to say about it, but I can't. How life is, but I just feel at the moment. It's like I don't know if this is true. If you've heard anything, AJ, but the section 31, which is great, starting Michelle has been given the green light. That's what I read yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I read yesterday. And whether it is true, I want to sort of wonder. But I kind of excited by that. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, we can't surely have another Star Trek series. You know, I mean, it's too much.
They
it really is.
Yeah, they're doing they've sort of got the Marvel. It's probably the only thing really on Paramount Plus that keeps Paramount alive. So it is very much when one Star Trek show ends, you get another one starting, because you've got 4 at the moment. You've got 5 Star Trek shows. You've got 5 ongoing Star Trek shows at the moment. Discovery, Picard. I know that's got a final season and it's done. Strange New Worlds. Then you got Prodigy, the animated one for the younger audience. It was actually really good. And you got Lower Decks, which is again I enjoy a lot. But yeah, you got a lot of it. They're oversaturating, certainly.
Yeah, that's why I can't believe that they would sanction this one with Michelle. Yeah, I mean, why? You know, I mean, it's just too much
money.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But look what's happened with Star Wars. We're going the way of Star Wars. You know, it's sad. It's very sad to me. It's far too much.
The thing is now, because they've got these streaming sites, they've got to put new things on them. Now, again, I mean, this is coming up fairly recently, isn't it, with Disney, that we're getting to the stage now where it's, well, certainly up until now, it's more quantity than quality. Now, I think they've realised with Disney, hang on a minute, you know, we've gone too much for the quantity. We need to dial it back. And unfortunately, I think Paramount could get into the same thing of just, well, I think it's already happened, just too much of the same thing all the time. And it's just, people aren't, well, I gave up on Discovery after about the end of season 2.
I mean, I won't give up on it, because I like Star Trek, and again with Star Trek, I'm very much a completist of it. And I'm going to contradict myself here, because I have got the steelbook en route. That's actually been delivered. The second one's been delivered for Star Trek Discovery Season 4. But now I will. Okay, so this show, Star Trek, it is slow. If you're having struggling get into it, it is a very much overstretched storyline for this season that didn't need to be. And I'll say again, these shows, these new Star Trek shows, well, Picard and Discovery suffer from it the most. They've been created like Star Trek of past, where you give yourself a crew of 7 people, about 7 people, primary characters, but then you're not writing the show to fit that mold of character base. You've written it because you've given it an extended story over the entirety of the season. You're now finding that you've got to shoehorn these characters in, that a lot of these characters have gone wholly undeveloped. The primary bridge crew and all this are just so undeveloped in this show that there's scenes. I'm not going to mention scenes about it because you're watching it, but there's scenes in this episode, in this series, where these characters, you can just blatantly tell that they've got no reason to be there, that they've been put there with a bit of dialogue just to give the character something to do. And not only that, it looks like they're getting somewhere in this season of this show. And then it's almost like something occurs and you're thinking, okay, but then there's just a reset right at the end of this occurrence that renders the entirety of the episode null and void, that what we've just been through hasn't mattered because we're back to stage 1 at the beginning of this episode, at the end of this episode, to carry on. So it's like that whole episode could be ejected from the storyline and nothing else would have gone amiss. Luckily they learnt with Strange New Worlds and they went in with the episodic storytelling with a light ongoing narrative through the episodes to join it. It's just set up in the completely wrong way. Picard suffers exactly the same as well. That Brent Spiner, right? I know he's a fan favorite as Data, but every season of Picard, 2 seasons of Picard, he's been shoehorned in now for no reason whatsoever. It's not necessary. His character died at the end of Star Trek Nemesis. Well, it didn't. They bottled out on that and they gave him a way out straight away because they were too scared to kill off the character. And now it's like, and especially this latest season of Picard, everyone's shoehorned in, all the characters are something different, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the writing. That's where it ultimately fails. Sorry, I can rant on about. I'll stop there because I can rant about these. But
I think one of the sad things
I really want to like them.
Yeah. I think this is just my personal viewpoint that if 10 years ago we'd have had Captain Burnham as a character in a series, we'd have all loved her. There wouldn't have been the criticism she gets now. Of course, I mean, she's Spock's sister, effectively, and that's a great story. I mean, that is fantastic story, and the way it developed. But putting that into context, Star Trek's strength over the years is family. It's still like a lot of great stories are all based on family, and the family is the crew. The problem with Discovery is, I think AJ has mentioned this a lot, is that you don't know the rest of the crew very well. I know bits and pieces. I can't even name, there's these faces that appear on the bridge that have been there now since the first season. I don't know them. You don't know them, do you?
Don't know their names.
Yeah. It's sad.
Down to the writing,
it's sad.
Lack of writing.
And that's his weakness.
I felt there, Ian, that you said something that will probably sort of prick Dan's ears up and sort of get him involved in this conversation a bit. He's at the moment here in Star Trek. But you mentioned that 10 years ago we would have accepted Michael Burnham, but at the moment we don't. Why is that? And we can have these. The thing is, what I like about these channels is we can have these difficult conversations. I've got no qualms or worries about getting into awkward, difficult conversations if they are handled right. So please feel free to elaborate on that. If you're going the way, you may not be going the way I think you're going.
Well, I think the reason now she gets a lot of criticism is because people see her as ticking the box. You've mentioned about box ticking before, and she fits into the stuff, which I hate using that word. I'm refusing almost to use the word that begins with W and ends in E. I hate this word, and it's affected all our language, and there's a basically a cultural clash going on in, you know, between those, the anti ones, and the woke. It's the woke stuff and all that. And I'm fed up of both sides, to be honest. I get fed up of them. And as I say, what people have jumped on in many ways, unfortunately, with Captain Burnham, is that she is part of this so-called agenda, which Discovery seems to represent all that people are fighting about in terms of whatever for both sides. Whereas 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had this language. They would have accepted her, or they would not accept. You know, we wouldn't have had all this kerfuffle, and the series would have been written in a more honest way. I think it's not honest, is it? That's my sort of take on it. And the fact that they were ridiculous, I mean, it's almost like they do things just for the sake of doing them, but hope that it pleases certain elements. I mean, the Klingon thing, and the fact, what a mistake that was. I mean, there was absolutely no need. You could just tweak a little bit, but to create something that was so far removed from what the Klingons are, it started on a bad footing by doing that. I think the Klingon bit spoiled it from the very first season, and it's struggled to try and catch up to some extent. In the second season, it did improve a bit with the Captain Pike and all that kind of things. But even then, there's still issues. But there's something that you just can't say and talk about much. But it's like paint by numbers. We do this, we do that, we do this because this is what's expected of what their ideal ticking whatever. That is what they believe they've got. It's almost like they've got a manual, and they say, "Oh, we've got to follow this, and that's it, and that'll please everybody." But the thing is, when you try and please everybody, you don't please everybody. And unfortunately, Captain Burnham is affected by that. And I like her a lot. I think she's great. I'd just love to have seen her 10 years ago. We wouldn't have had all this kerfuffle. We really wouldn't, because now people probably, if you ask people which is the worst captain of Star Trek, I bet you they would put she would be at the bottom. I can guarantee she would be at the bottom. And that is sad because she's a very good actress. And I liked her in Walking Dead.
Green. Yeah.
She's
going to
really
get
good
into
actress.
a few comments just to say people are just saying hello. And then I think Dan wants to bring up a subject as well. If that's all right, we just don't want to talk about Star Trek for the whole 2 hours. I know it's quite an interesting subject, but so we've got Big Paulie. He's watching. Thanks for
hey Paul,
tuning
how
in.
you doing? Sorry, I'm eating a bit of lunch because I haven't had no lunch, so you will see me sort of.
Got Dimension Scott. Hi, thanks for joining me. And we've
So
got Derek from Pure Hangout. Hi, Derek. Thanks for joining.
I still want to get him on and do a live. I want to get him on and do a live. What do you call it? What's he do? What's it called? Random ranking.
Okay.
I want to do a live random ranking with Derek, where he pulls some stuff and then we talk about it. I think that'd be really good.
There are a couple of questions about Star Trek, but maybe we can come back to those a bit later because conscious we have spoken quite a bit about that. So, or Dan's not, sitting there not being able to say anything. So Bal also says, "Afternoon all. Sorry I'm late. Just been down. Oh dear. Sorry to hear that.
He's been playing with a Hoover again. Did I have to remove it?"
Okay. All right. So over to you, Dan.
Yeah, so that what we were just speaking about ties in nicely with all this wokery and cancel culture, and so it's a good way to get into it. So, to be honest, it's been driving me mad recently. It's the reason I haven't made a video because I haven't been in the mindset. I mean, recently, Love Actually's come out as being called racist, directors racist, and whatever. My argument to that is I work with a lot of younger people, and the first time I was hearing about woke was about 2 years ago, and I thought, what are these people saying? So I'm opinionated, but I'm level-headed. I grew up in Lewisham, very multicultural, went to school with variety of people from every different background. And Love Actually, I've never seen the film, but I know what I've seen it in the background. But saying that there's no people of different colour, no people of different sexualities. I don't want to say the wrong word and get everyone in trouble. What do you say? I'll just say gay, shall I? Is that fair enough?
Well, we're all happy here.
Yeah, I mean,
So, but my argument is, I had this dispute this morning with my mum when I had to go and pick some stuff up, and she was going on about it. And I said, the thing is, like, if you're casting a film like Love Actually, for me, in my head, I don't say I want this ethnicity, this sexuality or whatever. I'm casting the best person. So if Kate Winslet walks along and I think, right, her partner, I want the best man, and Idris Elba walks along, done. And it's the best. Like Bond, if Idris Elba auditions and he's better than Tom Hardy or Tom Huddleston, what's his name, Hiddleston, I'm casting Idris Elba. It's not a colour thing. But every single place you look now, it is done, as Ian said, absolutely deliberately, and I feel it's causing far more of a divide than ever, because now my daughter, who's 10, is thinking that there's an issue when before she didn't think there was an issue, because you're getting like this lady hussy asking where someone's from, and I mean, it's just lunacy. I mean, I work with a lot of different people, and because someone like a different skin colour, I'm not going to go straight up and say, where are you from? But if they're dressed a certain way or got an accent, I'm interested. It's a conversation opener. It's just, it is absolute lunacy that's driving me mad now. And I feel absolutely alienated by it.
But even still, Dan, sorry, about the lady Hussey thing, or whatever her name is. I don't know. Is it Hussey? Am I saying Hussey?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Lady Hussey, yeah.
So I don't know who that is anyway. I know the incident you're talking about, but I don't know who she is. But I've got no qualms about going up to someone of colour, a race or anything, and asking them where they originate from, where their family might originate from, where their family might have came over to the UK, because obviously at some point in their family history, inevitably that's happened. That's not. But this is the thing: people want to get offended by the slightest little thing, and it's. But I've asked people. I've said to them, "Where do you originally? Where do you hail from? Where did your family hail from? Where do they come from? Even if they're, just in conversation, where they come from, and what I mean. I don't see an issue with that. How's that racist? To ask that of someone's family background. I mean, a lot of people. I've got Scottish, a bit Scottish in heritage, but you wouldn't know that. Do you know what I mean? But yeah,
I think she's got into trouble because she said it in maybe the wrong way, or I suppose because she's of a certain age, she maybe the way that it's come across, you know, obviously it's caused offence. Now, you know, all fairness to the Queen, I mean, bless her, she's most diverse monarch. I mean, I can't say much for Charles because obviously he's only just started as the monarch, but I'm sure he's been brought up by his mum, and I'm sure he holds the same values as her. You know, she's got a very diverse person, has embraced diversity. But I think maybe there are certain people, sort of aides or whatever, within the royal circle that maybe, yeah, have said things in, you know, they probably haven't really meant it, but it's come out in the wrong way and caused offence. So, you know, yeah, you've got to be careful the way that things come out. But I don't think, in all honesty, she was meaning to be racist, but I think it just came out in totally the wrong way.
My missus says she was very persistent. She kept asking.
Yeah, I think that's what they didn't like, which you can understand if somebody's.
I understand that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I get that, but if you're going somewhere in full African attire, then you've changed your name to an African name, then you think you're representing your heritage. So yeah, I understand. But if like the lady I work with is from Ghana, and when she started, I wasn't working directly with her, and I thought, you know, didn't even come to my head where she's from. But as soon as I had to start working with her, training her, then I thought, well, where'd you come from? Obviously, someone comes from somewhere. Like me, my grandfather's side is German, so that my missus' side, one of her sides are Italian, and she's asked quite a lot where she's from because she's olive skinned. Well, it doesn't offend us. I'm often called jokingly, I look like a typical German person, but then I don't, because if you look at many German people, they're not like what a stereotypical German should look like. I just think it's bizarre now. I think you should be able to openly ask something. And I feel like now at work, you've got to keep your voice to a minimum, otherwise you're up to HR and all this. It's just stupid.
Yeah, you do have to be careful.
I always say I'm a Yorkshireman. Now, I don't know, and I'm proud. It's something that I suppose wherever you're born or whatever you come from, you're proud of, and I'm proud. And you know, I've still got my accent, even though I've not lived in Yorkshire. Say I left when I was 18, but I left, came down here, and I'm proud of that. But I think what has happened, I think it's over the last few years, it's kind of America has influenced our language. Our language, our words have changed such a lot. Like, I'll tell you, I know it's an obvious, I don't want to get too political, but the word liberal, now, in America, liberal means very different to liberal here in this country. In America, they see it as like almost an extreme person, a socialist, communist, or what have you. Liberal to them is seen as that. Whereas here, it's not liberal. And I, in many ways, consider myself liberal. It's somebody who is in the middle, who sees different points of view. We have a tradition in this country. We are a liberal country. But if you say that to an American, it means very different. You know, they supposedly speak English. By heck, they don't speak English half the time because their words often mean very different from what. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't go, oh, I'm just taking out the rubbish, or they'd say garbage, to dumpster. I mean, what the hell's a dumpster? And I keep saying this, dumpster. It's a blooming bin. That's what it is. Language. What on earth is happening? And this has infected all the areas. And this is what has happened. Our language, it's all communication and language. And language, suddenly it takes on a whole different context half the time. And people get involved in it.
It's like,
I mean,
like
you
with
ask some of these people who say, what does woke mean? And they'll give you some sort of fuzzy impression. And I'm thinking, well, what actually does it mean? It means whatever they think it means. And that is not a good thing, you know. What is? We have an impression of what woke means. But, you know, it's like, as I say, with programs, I won't preach too much more, but I sound like preaching. Doctor Who, which is one of my favourite programs, and Star Trek, original Star Trek, they would nowadays be called woke. They would. They would.
Yeah.
Because woke means, in the context, that they're standing up for rights. They have a voice. They're standing up for issues and things at the time. I know they say, but they didn't preach. I'll tell you, Doctor Who, in the John Pertwee era, and Tom Baker, they preached a lot. They were making very fuss. The Doctor has a very sad. They'd call him a social. He's a social justice warrior. We don't go around. That's not blooming English. Blooming heck. Yeah, I mean, we don't go. Hey, you're a social justice warrior. I mean, what a load of rubbish. Come on.
Yeah, but
I
mean,
wake up, please. Wake up. Just, it's ridiculous.
I mean,
Language.
I've had that argument with people before. You know, and I'm not going to stay too long on this, but yeah, Trek evolved. Trek's always been progressive. You had what isn't actually the first ever interracial kiss on TV, but is perceived to be. There was one before. I think it was on the BBC actually, or something like that. It was here in Britain.
Yeah,
it was a play. Anyway, you had that, but the difference is in context is that Star Trek never used to make a big thing out of it. And I've said this before. When you got with Michael Burnham, well, when that character came about and was conceived, you would believe that there was, you know, never a person of color headlining the cast of Star Trek. There was never a woman headlining the cast of Star Trek. Obviously, in both cases, we've had Captain Janeway and we've had Ben Sisko in Deep Space Nine. But a big deal was never made of it back then. It wasn't like this was jammed down your throat, that this was the case, that it was done for a reason. Now it's very much, you've got that reasoning behind it. And they feed off of that. They advertise it. They push it as that reasoning that we're doing something that's, you know what I mean? And there's the difference between the old and the new. You know, the progressiveness is still there, and I'm fine with it being progressive. I've got no issue with what it does with characters and the people that it has in it, because Star Trek's always done that. It's the reason behind it that is front. It's almost in front of everything else. It's almost, do you know what I mean? It's like you've been slapped in the face with it.
Being told how to think.
Yeah, this is how it is. This is how it should be. Not just. Yeah. This is how we're doing it, like it was back in the day of Star Trek. I mean, you know, Ben Sisko, you know, as you know, Deep Space Nine, my favourite Star Trek series. Ben Sisko I'd rate as my favourite captain. But there was never sort of like a forced issue of the fact that this guy is black. It wasn't ever a thing. It was just like, okay, it's a black guy commanding the station. Fair enough. It wasn't like, oh, he's a black guy commanding the station. I'm going to shove it down your throat. It was just there. It was just there.
Yeah. And that's how it should be, you know.
But now we're being force-fed it. We're being forced in every facet of society. This stuff is being rammed. And that's where the issue lies. You know, Hollywood would have you believe that women were hard done by in TV and film before, historically. But they haven't been. I know to a lesser degree, obviously women were represented, but you go back to, you know, and you can throw things out earlier than this, but you go back to Alien, you got Sigourney Weaver as a woman, as the main protagonist, right? You've got Terminator, where it was Sarah Connor. You've got, you know, on TV, you had Charlie's Angels. You did have Bionic Woman. Do you know what I mean? So you had these things there, and then Then you had things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Xena Warrior Princess. You know, this stuff has always been there, giving you these strong female characters. But Hollywood would have you believe that this actually wasn't the case, that this has never been, and it's all so new and, you know, a few years back, and this is progressive, putting these women up front and centre. Okay, there was a time that I know that female-led action movies flopped in Hollywood around the time of Aeon Flux, Tomb Raider, those sort of movies there. You know, Catwoman, Barbed Wire, these films ultimately failed. And that's why Marvel never pushed forward with a female-led superhero movie until what's her face, Captain Marvel, because there was a fear of doing it for them, set about. But females always seem to be stronger on TV than what they were in film. They, you know, there was more of an acceptance on TV than movie. But you'd be led to believe that it wasn't ever the case. Sorry, I can talk about these sort of things for hours. It intrigues me.
There is one thing that was very much that if you know the sort of late 60s, early 70s period in this country, there was particularly BBC started to get very worried about, there was an organization called, it started with Lord Longford, and most famously became with Mary Whitehouse. It was a Festival of Light, and it built into quite a big sort of organization pressure group, which was getting a lot of attention in the media. And this group was trying to influence morals, etc., in our society, and it ended up having quite an influence in councils, in let's say Mary Whitehouse leading the campaign against the BBC, the programs it was showing. The BBC at the time was showing controversial programs like Till Death Do Us Part, the Afghani character, who was a racist, openly racist character, who was written by somebody who was trying to actually show the stupidity of racism. But that came under a lot of criticism because of that, and also because of the language. The language was used, was seen in a very sort of strong way. But what I'm saying is that I don't want to go on too much because it's a whole story in itself. But they did start to really criticize and publicize. Doctor Who, of course, got a lot of criticism for the political stuff, it was what they believed it was pushing, and B, the violence it was pushing. They believed it was supposedly aimed at children, but by then Doctor Who was very much family as well, as much as aiming at adults. And they were trying to stop it. They were the BBC, in fact, on certain episodes, I can think of certain episodes that the BBC did actually try and interfere into Doctor Who to get things cut and changed. There's a particular episode where the Doctor is he's underwater and he looks like he's drowning, and they said this was too much, it was too scary for children, and they got it cut. And then there were other things they were really trying to get, and she was leading the way with Daily Mail and all these usual things. So what I'm saying is, to cut a long story short, none of this is new. People think this is all new, but it's all been going on since, it's just a thing. It's just the language is perhaps different, and that's what I've been talking about. But anyway, I won't go on too much, but
the BBC, yeah. BBC as a broadcaster now is absolutely finished, in my opinion. It puts out the
television,
mind-numbing, absolute load of rubbish compared to what it used to be. I don't even have a TV license anymore. I won't give them the time of day. BBC.
I think
it's all about shifting television, and BBC will exist in its present form probably in 10 years, it will. It's. I can't see it lasting that long. It's not. Nobody's going to finance it.
Especially
like
with the younger
this.
generation now. I mean, you know, they're just. I mean, I find that, you know, more and more I'm watching more and more stuff on YouTube than I do watch terrestrial TV in the evenings from about 9 o'clock onwards, but very rarely do I watch it during the daytime. Very rarely. Probably the news, and that's about it. But
the only way BBC can produce quality drama now is working with other studios and other things like Peaky Blinders. I've never watched Peaky Blinders, funny enough, but that has been massively successful on BBC. But that was produced with somebody else, you know. Doctor Who is now effectively. Doctor Who is not in the control of the BBC in the same way.
No.
And again, a few more years and it will be. You know, BBC can only live on its past. It's brilliant because whatever your criticism, BBC, it's got one of the world's greatest archives.
Oh,
it's a fantastic archive.
I mean, the comedy that we got back in the 80s, you know, is fantastic. But like I say, some of that comedy now, they wouldn't be able to show it like the young ones, like you said, Sickness in Hell.
Yeah, they do. It has been shown on BBC 4. Yeah. But BBC 4's disappearing. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. But
they're getting rid of BBC 4. And that has been a great, for me, music. I love music. It's a great musical archive, BBC 4, but that's disappearing next year.
Yeah.
And they show young ones on. Yeah.
I know AJ said he obviously picked up the young ones recently on Blu-ray, and obviously you were concerned that they were going to cut it.
Yeah, they didn't, which was great to see. But then when you're watching it in context, the racism isn't, you know, the scene, the one scene that I always go to is the doorstep scene, like I mentioned in the video, when there's a geezer ringing the doorbell of their house. He's got a black glove on. All you can see is the black glove. Then a copper steps out from behind the bush, sunglasses on, and starts hurling all this racist abuse at him, thinking he's a black guy. But the racism, it's very cleverly done in the sense that it's not being racist towards black people. It's highlighting the Met Police. It's more of a sort of a commentary on the racism that is inbred within the Metropolitan Police.
Yeah.
As an institution, rather than, you know, so it's more of a highlight in that sort of a thing. So it's very cleverly done, but on face value, yes, there's a lot of racism in that scene. But like I said, it's more of a commentary on which, and watching it again now is so sort of eye-opening in the sense of a lot of the stuff that we have going on now with the Metropolitan Police and the troubles within over the past couple of years, that it's really sort of like things haven't changed since then to now. So it isn't done in such a way that it's towards these people, if that makes sense. It's more done as a social commentary. But yeah, you can see it not, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, sorry.
That's fine. Bowles, he's asked a question. He says, first watch of a film you didn't like, second time viewing you did. I think. Yeah.
That's it. Takes us away from the heavy talking, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think, yeah. Let's have a break from that. No, yeah. Any film that you didn't like the first time, but then you actually enjoyed it the second time?
Mine would be Jackie Brown. It's the first Tarantino film I ever watched. I was quite young. I thought it's quite slow paced. I didn't quite understand it. But then I watched Pulp Fiction a few years after. Went back to Jackie Brown. I just think, for me, everything Tarantino does is like a, you know, it's top quality. So Jackie Brown. A lot of people class that as the slowest one, but it's such a brilliantly put together film.
Ian?
There's a few, but I think one of the most radical changes was, I remember when I was young, in a child, my mum dragged us to see The Sound of Music, and it was the most boring time I've ever had at the cinema. About 3 hours worth of watching this awful. The only interesting thing was when a few Germans came on. He thought, oh, something's going to happen interesting. No. Anyhow, but now, all these years later, I've watched Sound of Music, and I actually really enjoy it. It's a complete turnaround, you know. But that is to do with age, isn't it? I suppose, you know, when you actually watch something at a certain age, you see it differently when you're older, and yeah, that's it. That's just one example. There's lots of other examples.
AJ?
Fifth Element. Bruce Willis. The reason being is because I went cinema and I saw Con Air and Fifth Element back to back, same day, and Con Air was the first one, and I loved Con Air. You know, I came out of that, felt like I'd been on this roller coaster of excitement, and then went into the Fifth Element. And although it's all flashy and nice, big special effects, I didn't enjoy the film at all. It didn't work for me. I did watch it again when it came out on physical media, and realised that actually you need to watch this film as a comedy. Fifth Element. There's so many sort of everything is set up in such a way that it's just coincidence after coincidence after coincidence in the film and the story of the film, that I had to watch it with a comedic take in mind, and then it worked for me. But again, like Ian, there are quite a few examples that I could give, but that's one of the most profound ones. But it was Con Air. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't seen Con Air just before stepping into that. It may have been a completely different situation. So
I think yeah, I'll come on to that. I think as well, it depends on what age you see a film, you know, your life experience, you know. So what you may have seen years ago and really loved, you come back to it, maybe not so much now.
Yeah, it's a turnaround, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The nostalgia factor of something works that way. Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I'd say Pulp Fiction. The first time I watched it, I thought, I don't really like this. And I think partly because of the way that the film is structured. Obviously, sort of the bit at the beginning is kind of the ending, isn't it? But on rewatches, yeah, I do like the film now. So yeah, it'd be Pulp Fiction for me. Right. So we've got Dimension as said there's been some crazy news about DC cancelling so much. Yeah, very true.
These new, over the past couple of days.
Been a lot of stuff. I mean, it's almost like they're kind of, you know, scrapping everything and let's go back to basics and start again.
Although with some of it, I do wonder if it's a case of, I know they've said that like Wonder Woman 3 has been cancelled, but is that Wonder Woman 3 in the form that it was in, as opposed to it's been cancelled and we're getting rid of Gal Gadot? Or is it that James Gunn's now got his own idea of moving things forward, and the Wonder Woman 3 script that wouldn't fit into that narrative? So it's not Gal Gadot who's gone, it's that there's the change up in how they're going to be doing it. That's the question I'm left with.
Yeah, I don't think we know yet, because they've not really mentioned about the actors and actresses. Obviously, Henry Cavill came back on saying on social media that he was back as Superman. However, Warner Brothers haven't actually confirmed that. The only thing you can say is he did make his cameo in Black Adam. But obviously there was the other news that Ben Affleck's been cut from Aquaman as well, hasn't he?
Yes, and all the Michael Keaton stuff. I think is I don't know if we'll get that. We might get that in the Flash. I don't know. I can understand too many Batmen. I get that. You know, you've got Pattinson. You'd still have Affleck. You'd have Keaton popping up. Totally get that, and too many. And on that, I can agree. It's a shame.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think there's some kind of meeting next week, and then maybe, you know, between the executives and all the rest of it. So maybe sort of sometime next year they'll kind of, you know, sort of reveal what the direction is, whether they're just scrapping everything and starting from fresh, or whether, like you say, they're going to continue with the actors but just in a different way. Because from what I heard, Wonder Woman 3, Patty Jenkins, she put like a script to the executives, well, James Gunn or whatever, and actually I think it was before he joined, but basically they said, no, we don't want to go this way. So she's kind of just walked. She, you know, doesn't want anything more to do with it. But yeah,
not a great loss.
No, because I don't think Wonder Woman 1984 was that great a film, was it really? But even the first one.
The first one was 2/3 a good film.
Yeah, the ending just all went a bit silly for me, but there we go. Right. Oh, we got Big Paulie says he's linked the chat in his group, so thanks very
Really
much
nice
for doing
of you. Thank you, Paul.
Al says Love Actually is racist. The loonies are off their head. They're absolutely ridiculous. Spot on, Dan.
The thing is these people feel like they need to step out. Then the makers behind this stuff have to apologise. It's like the person who made Friends came out and said, "Oh, I'm sorry for Friends." Why? Why? It's a product of its time. You know, I don't get why are you apologising for what was.
Tim Burton's another one. I read that they're calling a racist as well. But I mean, as a Samson or Mrs.
What's he done to upset people?
Because he doesn't cast people of colour. But then my argument is Johnny Depp's like his favourite, like Scorsese's favourite was De Niro. So you're going to cast, you know, the best person for the job, aren't you?
Absolutely,
you know,
yeah.
It's not. It just baffles me. Like as I said to you, AJ, on that message, I don't see colour. I see the best person for the job. If someone's a good person, I have all the time in the world for them. I know scummy people from whatever race they're from. It's nothing to do with it. And the more this is pushed down everyone's throat, say this is a divide, and now my 10-year-old is seeing this divide, and she went to see the new Matilda the other day. She'd have never said this in a million years. First thing what popped to her head, Miss Honey's now black. She wouldn't have took any notice if this wasn't spoken about all the time.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to tell her, explain to her, yeah, but it's not a real. Miss Honey is a fictional from a book you read. So she's the lady who's walked in. She's the best for the job. They may have done it to be politically correct. I don't know, but I like to just think that's the best person for the job.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is done to create controversy, because controversy creates.
Yeah, I just.
They've forgotten what actors are. What is the job of an actor? An actor's job is to create a character. But just because you're creating a character doesn't mean that you as an actor are that character, because that's your job to create a character. It's just plain daft when they say you can't do this character because you're not, A, you've not had life experiences, B, you don't look like the character should look. It's just daft. An actor is an actor, and they just do the job, you know.
It's like we've had this discussion before about AJ and myself, you know, about characters. I mean, like James Bond, he was written as a white male. Spider-Man was written as a white Peter Parker. Now, obviously, with that, the Spider-Man thing, they had Miles Morales, who was written as a black character. Now, that, to me, you know, that it should be played by a a black character if it's been written as a black character? Why do we have to have people of different races playing characters that aren't written that way? Why not create a character of that race or ethnicity or whatever, and promote that character? It just seems to me it's all up in the air.
What about sexuality? I mean, that is ridiculous. A lot of gay actors play straight actors, and straight actors have played gay characters.
Yeah.
But no, nowadays they make a kerfuffle about that. But that's never been a problem.
On that. Sorry, because when I watched, I might have said it before, I can't remember, but when I went to see, what's the last Bond film? It's gone off my head. The newest Bond film.
No Time to Die.
That's it. I went to the cinema to see it, and there's a scene where Bond goes to Q's house. He's preparing dinner, and Q says, "You can't be long. I've got someone coming around for dinner." That's all that needs to be said. That was it. But then they have to ram down your throat, "He will be here in a minute." But we didn't need to know that, did we? Did you say it's just something that doesn't need to be said? Nothing against it, but
not relevant to the character, is it?
Yeah, it's like you wouldn't say she'll be here in a minute. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Like say, just being forced upon.
Yeah, you're implying that the character's gay. Fair enough, but yeah, it's done in such a way. It's in so many things that they do that. I said the other day in an episode of Quantum Leap, New Quantum Leap, the young character just happens to say, a young girl, that she's in a relationship with another girl, and it's just sort of so random and out of left field that it's like, do you know what I mean? Why? What's the relevance to anything else that's going on that needs to be mentioned other than
But to me, if later on that was just, I got a date, you can't be long, and later on Q's with another man, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. It's just because it's in your face. You see what I mean? It just.
However, just as a balance, there are some shows that are doing it right, i.e. the Orville. There was an episode of the Orville where it was about transgender, but it was done well, and it was done in the right way, and it kind of educates people about it, but it didn't feel forced, and I'm sure you said about that when you were reviewing the series, that you actually felt that was a really good episode, a really strong episode. But it was, and again, people who wrote the Orville were the guys that wrote Star Trek The Next Generation. So they know how to write subject matter, get the issues out there, but sort of in the right way.
Because I went into that episode of the Orville, knowing what it was about, and I gave it an eye roll. I was like, oh, for Christ's sake, okay, we're doing this, are we? But then the episode itself, I got to say, it was one of the best written episodes of TV that I have seen in a long, long time, because it was handled beautifully.
Yep.
It had stuff to say. It was poignant. It made you think. It made you feel. And it was very, very well done. I'll say.
So it can be done, but unfortunately, we're finding a lot that it's not being done in the right way. It's just, like you say, just being forced down your neck, and that is doing the opposite to what it should be doing, But then there's a clever way of doing it as well, which I've noticed in Cobra Kai. Right, Cobra Kai could be classed as a considerably woke program. It really can. But what they've done cleverly in the writing is that your main character, I'm talking about Johnny, if you watch Cobra Kai, is written as though he's never stepped out of the 80s. So he's still got, in his character, he is still, you know what I mean? He hasn't transitioned from that period in time in his life to now when things have changed. He's still a reflection of how things were. And it kind of dampens the other stuff on display, because you've got a character there displaying traits of stuff that
isn't now acceptable. Do you see what I'm saying? It's very cleverly done, very cleverly written, in that sense. And it gets away with it then. It doesn't feel like it's a show shoving anything down your throat, but it is there. It is there. It's just overshadowed by a character who's that old way of thinking. And that's a very good way of doing it.
Big Paulie says, I heard a reporter say the first queer astronaut yesterday. I was surprised, but then learnt it's totally acceptable word amongst the LGBTQ community.
Yes. Yeah, you can't keep up this stuff.
I haven't heard that word for years, to be honest. That word.
But that it's like these groups, these community groups. They get to decide what can and can't be said. Trying to keep up with it is it's like the other day at work. I was at work a couple of weeks ago now, and the geezer goes to me, the coloured fella. I've gone, you mean the black guy? And he goes, oh, you're not allowed to call him black. I go, no, you're not allowed to call him coloured. Mm-hmm. He goes, well, I go, no. But he was only genuine with it. He was, do you know what I mean? Because he's older fella and just, and it doesn't mean any offence by it or anything.
No.
And that's the other thing people need to understand, that, that education's another big part of it. You can't expect someone to, straight away. If, for example, there's this person at work who did transition in the offices. I don't deal with them. They're nothing to do with me in the sense that they're elsewhere. But I've heard stories that people got in trouble for referring to her as him, or calling him by his normal name when he changed because he wanted to be called this, but his name was this. But if you've known someone and worked with them for X amount of years, and you know them as Bob, for argument's sake, I don't know the person's name, then surely you can allow to slip up instead of getting your back up straight away. That, do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Instead of straight away jumping on them saying, oh, he's just called me this and he should be calling me this, reporting them for it. He's made a slip up. He's known you for flipping 5-10 years as one thing, and now you want him to refer you to something else.
Yeah. The other thing that baffles me a bit as well is obviously the N word, shall we say. You'll hear that in black rappers' tracks. They'll actually say that, but it's okay to be said in that. But if somebody else says it, it's taken as offence, isn't it? And this is where things get very muddy and very grey area. And like you say, you don't know whether. I mean, obviously that is it's not a nice word to say, but it's very difficult for people sometimes. Like you say, they feel very uncomfortable. Well, do I say this? Do I say that? I don't want to offend anybody. You know what I'm saying?
All I can say to that is, if you feel like you're going to offend them, don't say it.
Exactly. But I think sometimes people don't know what to say. Like you said, your colleague said, coloured, but he didn't mean offence. But
no, that's right, and that's about education, nothing more. Yeah. He's an oldish fella who and for them it's a lot harder to keep up with. And see, they could take offence to that. I just said for them. Ian, did you take offence to that? You're an older fella. I've just referred to you as them. See what I mean? It's like, wording is so like,
just drive yourself around the twist.
It's so, it's so. You can't call us them.
Bowles just replied. He said that his film that he didn't like the first time, but liked the second time, was Drive. I'd have to agree. Actually, the first time I watched it, it didn't impress me as much, but then the second time I really liked it, and the soundtrack on that film's great. Really good film.
I still ain't seen it.
Drive. Oh yeah. Really no. Have you seen that, Dan?
Oh, it's one of my favourites. Yeah, I got the soundtrack in the car. I love it. That's one I double dip on. I bought the second sight one for the commentary documentaries. Fantastic. And talking of Drive, I just wanted to point something out because they're remaking Bullet, a Steve McQueen classic.
Okay.
I was a bit against it, but Spielberg's on board. But Gosling would have been the perfect person to play that character. But he's done Drive, so they're getting Bradley Cooper. I don't know if anyone was aware of that.
That's a fantastic film, Bullet. Yeah. One of the best car chase scenes ever. Brilliant. Yeah. But Ian, have you seen Drive?
No, I've not, but you put my interest, because you said it's soundtrack. I love soundtracks, and if they're playing a lot of good songs, and that I really love a film that does that uses music as much as the actors, and it's an important part for me.
Synthesize music. If you like synthesize, it's
good.
I
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Like all the John Carpenter stuff.
Yeah.
With him being a composer as well of the music is fantastic. Yeah.
Movie Mad says hello. Oh, One Real Nerd's back. Hi. He says nice to see you all. And he's saying hello to Big Paulie. Okay, so Big Paulie says the Batman first watch found it drawn out and slow, but enjoyed it more on the second viewing. Yeah, I do need to give it a second viewing. I wasn't that impressed with the seeing it at the cinema, and I haven't actually rewatched it on 4K. I've watched certain scenes to kind of review the 4K disc, but yeah, I need to do that next year, is to rewatch that film. What about you, Dan? Have you seen the Batman?
The 89 one, yeah. I don't mind it. I prefer Batman Returns, but for me, Batman, I finally got what I wanted with Christopher Nolan's trilogy.
Big Paulie means the new one.
Oh, new one. Oh, yeah. I really like that the Batman. Sorry, yeah. I'd watch that again now if I had 3 hours after this. I love it.
Ian, have you watched the Batman yet?
Yeah, I've watched it and I loved it. I know AJ doesn't like it as much for his various reasons, but I couldn't get enough of it. Actually, I loved it. To me, it's great. I know they said it was too long. It wasn't too long for me. I always know if a film just flies by how much I'm enjoying it, and I loved it. It's so layered and everything about it I rather enjoyed. Yeah.
Real nice. He'd like to be part of the chat. Yeah, we'll get you on at some point.
I'm looking. I want the Batman 2. I just want to say this. I want the Batman 2 to improve the Batman for me. In my mind, I want, like how Zack Snyder's Justice League raised up the stuff that came before it, Batman versus Superman. I want the same thing to happen with the Batman 2. It's a film that The Batman is a film that I want to like. I want to like it, but I don't. Yeah, that's all I can say. It's a film that I want to like. I wish I liked. I just think there's too much Batman at the moment. I seriously do. Between TV, cartoon, and I think that it just came at a time where I was fatigued by Batman more than anything. We'd gone from Nolan, from Bale to Affleck to Pattinson in what just feels like a time frame like that to me. It feels like no time has passed whatsoever. And then on TV, you had Batwoman, you got Pennyworth, you've had 5 years of Gotham. Even though Batman's not in them, the world is there. It's another take on it, and it's just. I just need a break from it. I just need a break from that character. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Big Paulie says, yeah, he's obviously said the wrong thing as well.
Yeah, I remember, and it's very easily done. It is very easily done, and it is about education and not jumping down someone's throat like you're racist, you're racist because you've said this. Approach it differently. You know, you shouldn't say that. It's now referred to as this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, education.
Yeah, and we can't all keep up with this stuff because it changes. It changes so often.
Yeah. One real note says, I'm totally addicted to Bond films. The earliest films had an amazing restoration done and made some amazing upgrades. Yeah, well, it's Lowry, wasn't it? Lowry did the restoration on the Bond films. So let's go around the room and what's your favourite Bond film? Dan, what's your favourite?
It was always. Oh, bloody hell. Well, I'll go with what now is my favourite, so I've just forgot the name of it. But now it's Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. I loved it. But I like the Timothy Dalton ones. I like that gritty Bond. But I said to you when you was showing your Bond, your videos just took me back to when I used to sit there with my granddad when he was talking about all them. I could watch Bond as a marathon. You know, even the poorer ones, which I don't think there's any poor ones. No, they're all enjoyable. But Casino Royale, I forgot the name of it. But where the ladies painted gold on the bed, I forgot the name. It's gone out of my head.
Oh, Goldfinger.
That's Goldfinger was my number one until Casino Royale come along.
Yeah. What about you, Ian? Like the Bond film?
Yeah, I love Bond. I've got them all. But I suppose you probably guessed it. Earlier Bond. I like fantasy Bond, but I do like British sometimes. But I'm not as big a Daniel Craig fan because of that. I always, for me, the film that I actually love is You Only Live Twice. Donald Pleasance as the Blowfield, the volcano, the base, the grabbing the rockets. Oh, it's just glorious. I absolutely love it. Japan as well. What else can I say? It's just absolutely wonderful. And I've just put and the other film because I remember I'm actually going to see these at the cinema as well. My dad loved it and took us along. The other one is On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Dinah Rigg. You know, I love Dinah Rigg, and she's there as a Bond girl, and the film is great as well. The film it's a really good film. I know he's not as good. It's underrated. It is, yeah. It's fantastic, and Dinah Rigg. What more can I say? Yeah. So yeah, I would pick that, and I like Roger Moore as well.
Grew up with
Roger Moore's good. I know he got a bit too old. I think Roger Moore perhaps should have finished, maybe a couple of films, from the end. That last film, it does look a bit, doesn't look quite as good. And Timothy Dalton is very good. I know a lot of people like Timothy Dalton, I've noticed more, because they see him as a, with Daniel Craig sort of links with a more sort of transition to a more grittier kind of Bond, a more responsible Bond, with AIDS and all that at the time. The idea that you don't go around leaping into, Bond as the, womanizer is more, he's not as much in that. And I don't mind Pierce Brosnan as well. Of course, my opinion on that one film that everybody hates, but I love it.
Oh, yeah, you do like it, don't you?
Yeah, he's perhaps will get in future. Maybe people will look at Pierce Brosnan a bit better, I think, than do. It's all golden on it. But as I say, Die Another Day, which the most people I absolutely love. It's got the fantasy elements in it. Yeah, and Halle Berry just happens to be in it as well.
Yeah.
I love Halle Berry. Yeah. Just wish you had Dinah Rigg and Halle Berry together. Heaven. Yeah, right.
What about you, AJ?
Timothy Dalton. Always has been, always will be. and yeah, there is that connection between Dalton and Craig in that Dalton was ahead of his time. Audiences weren't ready for that sort of Bond yet, hence why they stepped back into more comedic with Brosnan. But License to Kill, probably the least Bond film there is, but License to Kill is I don't know if that's because it is least Bond, but Dalton definitely is a Bond, and License to Kill was the film. GoldenEye I really love. Casino Royale is fantastic, and on Her Majesty's Secret Service, even though I don't really like Lazenby at all, I think that the film itself is one of the closest to the books, or it was at the time, or
to the character. Yeah, for me, I have to agree with you, Dan. Casino Royale for me, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Really, really, hasn't been beaten for me, that one. Before that, as a child, and this kind of links in what you're saying, Ian, Moonraker. For me, as a child, watching Moonraker, it was fantastic because it was so fantasy driven. I know he went to space and all the rest of it, and a lot of people think, oh, that's ridiculous. But as a child, it was great. He went to so many different locations, and I just loved it. I still like it even today. But so yeah. The Bow says, soundtrack on Drive is great, very 80s vibe. There you go, Ian. One for you to have a look into.
Yeah.
We've got Pete says, afternoon all. Hi, Pete. Thanks for joining me. Bow says, another modern film I loved was The Guest with Dan Stevens. Great soundtrack, very 80s.
Yeah, it's a great film, that is.
I've seen it. I didn't mind it, but it probably just more of a one-time watch for me, that one. But
the end didn't work for me. I had too many questions coming out of the film. There are story elements that just didn't. It's one of those films I could watch and pick apart from a story perspective and say, why is he doing this? Why would he go there? Why? Do you know what I mean? And then the end, just, I don't know. There's something about the end that didn't work for me as well.
Yeah. But have you seen it, Ian?
No, I haven't. No, I've heard about it, but I might get to it. We don't know. I've got a lot of get to films. Yeah.
Although I did like Dan Stevens. I think Dan Stevens is very good. I like him. The film just didn't resonate for me. Thank you.
Pete says, watch Studio Canal release of The Driver with Ryan O'Neal last night. Fantastic film, some great car chases.
Mm-hmm.
Not seen it.
It's good film. Yeah, if you like Drive, definitely watch Driver. I've got the older release of it. It's a good film.
Seen it, Ian?
No, I've not seen that. No.
Is that from the 70s?
I think it is late 70s. Yeah, I can't find it on my shelf. Here it is, a Driver. Let me just check. 78 Driver.
You don't really hear much about Ryan O'Neal these days, do you?
No.
I guess he's packed up acting. Yeah, one real nerd says Moonraker. Tony York, my favourite movie car chase at the beginning of 1967's Robbery starring Stanley Baker. Blaggers being chased by Met Police, both in Jags. Okay. I must admit, I did like the Sweeney from the 70s. Have you got that on physical media, AJ, the Sweeney?
No.
Dennis Waterman again and John Thorpe.
Yeah, it goes back a little bit further than. Do you know what I mean? I didn't grow up with it as much.
No. I think I caught the tail end of that because it was sort of late 70s, wasn't it? But I do remember it being on the TV. I think there are a couple of films as well, weren't there? Have you got any of those, Dan? Sweeney?
No, the Sweeney TV show, I don't know, it hasn't held up well for me personally. Couldn't get into it, but I have seen the film with Ray Winstone in the remake, which it was all right. Good? It was all right. It's a one watch. See it for 50p. It's worth a go.
Yeah.
Hayley Atwell's in that, isn't she?
From what I remember, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I do like Hayley Atwell.
What's your favourite sort of London-based gangster film, Dan?
I love them all. Well, not all of them, but Snatch, Lock, Stock, Rock and Roller, Football Factories, football gangs, but they are kind of involved in other stuff. Sexy Beast, they go out to Spain in that one. If you watch that one with Ben Kingsley, he plays an amazing nut job of a character. But yeah, Business, London based, but go out to Spain. But yeah, I'll probably have to go with Snatch as an overall.
Yeah. Ian, you like gangster films?
I'm not. I'll be honest. I've not really watched any. You know, they're not set in Yorkshire. So no. I haven't seen any of them. I know Guy Ritchie is a well-respected gangster. I should watch the Sherlock Holmes films. I think they might be more up my street. I think.
Yeah.
But yeah.
AJ?
Funnily enough, I don't. I have an issue with the sort of Cockney accent on film. It really winds me up. The whole gangster stuff I don't really get into. Not sort of my cup of tea, to be honest. So a lot of these films have passed me by. However, I have got Snatch on my radar to watch just based upon a clip that I saw on YouTube. It's one that I want to grab in CEX when I see it and give it a go. Guy Ritchie, never particularly liked as a filmmaker. I've never seen his stuff because it was that sort of a film until the Sherlock Holmeses, and the Sherlock Holmeses didn't work for me at all. I didn't like them. I felt they were marketed one way, but it was a completely different sort of film than how they were marketed. And so I didn't get my expectation with them. And but then I saw recently, I think it was The Gentleman, and I thought that was fantastic. And then it sort of made me want to go back and watch some of his earlier stuff after seeing that and seeing some of the clips of like Snatch and that. But as a sort of genre, yeah, the London gangster-based movie doesn't hold much interest.
No. Not seen. Have you seen Legend? About Craze.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
Good film that is. Really,
yeah, that was very well done. But then I don't really like the story of the Craze either. I just don't. But yeah, it just don't work for me. You know, that era. Like my brothers really liked the Craze and all that, and I was just like.
I can agree with that because I don't like it how they glorify them. They hold them in such high. I don't. I like watching a gangster film which is fictional, but they hold the Craze in such high regard. And I think they're nasty sods what they've done.
Oh, they were, yeah.
That's the issue I have with it. But I did, Legend is a film that I have watched. Obviously, I watched the Craze, the original one with Kemp's.
Yeah.
Kemp brothers in it.
That's good.
But yeah, I've got Legend on Blu-ray. It's a good film. But yeah, I don't like that sort of let's put them on a pedestal.
My dad, he grew up in Shepherd's Bush, and he knew the Craze, not well, but if they come into a pub, he'd say hello, But so I've always, I thought Legend was fantastic. I mean, Tom Hardy's performance is playing the two characters. I don't know how he'd done it, but they're very, very different. And, but it does show there were nasty bits of work, but it's a great film. My favourite film is actually The Long Good Friday.
Yeah.
Again, that was one that my dad and I used to watch years ago. I mean, he sadly passed away now, but yeah, I love that film. It's brilliant. Bob Hoskins, fantastic.
Helen Mirren was lovely as well when she was young.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, and the guy out of Casualty, he's been in it for years. I don't know whether you watched that, but
Charlie,
he was in it. Charlie, yeah. And Pierce Brosnan was in that as well.
Yeah,
because that was all to do with the IRA as well. Very good ending to that film. Really clever. Yeah, good. Yeah, I love it. We've got Danny says just come back from the shops. What a nightmare. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, with the Christmas shopping, Danny.
Pick anything up though?
Yeah.
Did you go to? I take it you went to the CEX there. No doubt he would have done.
The guy Jaws. Yeah, Jaws. He was great. Yeah. Pete says he's currently out food shopping with the family. Not nice. Too many people.
I wouldn't be.
Al says To Live and Die in LA has a great car chase. Fantastic film as well.
Yeah.
Not seen that. Anyone else seen that?
Yeah. It's that's an excellent late 80s crime movie. Willem Dafoe is William Peterson. Yes. It's on the Arrow label. Well worth picking up when they next do their sale.
Cool. Yeah. Pete's just saying he'll catch up on the stream later. Big Paulie says, is there anyone in particular you would like as the next 007, or do you think they should go with an unknown? What do you think?
I personally want to see that Tom Hiddleston. I think I'd like to see him. Yeah.
Ian?
As long as they pick somebody youngish, because of the gaps in the age, but it seems to take a long time, doesn't it, to make films. If you get somebody too old, even I think somebody in the 40s sometimes maybe now be too old with the length of time between films. Mm-hmm. But I would go with an unknown, maybe. Yeah, or somebody just sort of underneath, might have had a few roles, but he's not really widely known. Yeah.
But it's like I've said, they won't go with a known anyway. Not known. They never have with Bond. It's always been someone who's off the radar, someone who's, Daniel Craig. He'd never headlined a massive film series or anything like that. And this is why you won't get Cavill cast as Bond, because of the Superman connection. They'll want someone lesser known. I think Hiddleston wouldn't happen because of Loki, because of the connection there. For me, out of all the names thrown around now, I am intrigued by the idea of casting Aaron Taylor-Johnson in the role.
Kick-Ass, was he Kick-Ass?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Even though there were 2 Kick-Ass films, they weren't big.
Yeah.
And the second one was a flop anyway. I could see them getting away with that. I don't know how he would perform, but or an actor that I'd be intrigued to see going for it would be Tom Ellis, who played Lucifer in the Lucifer TV series.
Oh, yeah.
Is an English guy. I find him very watchable. Although what he does in that would be completely different how he'd have to play, obviously, Bond.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, I think Henry Cavill was actually runner-up to Craig. I think if he hadn't have got the Superman role, or the Witcher as well, I think he would have been perfect. But like you say, I think he's too well known now, and they won't go down that route. Well, we don't think so, but they do usually go for an unknown or somebody who's sort of similar. And you've seen them, but you're not
Yeah.
somebody that really, you know,
No, that's right. I mean, if you think of Sean Connery, he hadn't really done much before Bond. He'd been
He was a
about-
lorry driver at one stage.
Yeah. Roger Moore came from TV backgrounds with The Saint. Dalton was primarily, I know he's in Flash Gordon in a bit part, but he was primarily stage. Pierce Brosnan was known primarily just for the TV show Remington Steele.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And Daniel Craig had film roles under him, but nothing substantial, nothing. Do you know what I mean? And so what they don't want is to cast someone that you see. They want you to buy into an actor as Bond 100%. They don't want you to look at an actor and say, Superman.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So the Aaron Taylor Johnson one I thought was sort of left field in that he had done Kick-Ass, but you got to remember Kick-Ass is a relatively small movie, really, in the grand scheme of things. 18 rated, not really mentioned now too often. They could get away with that one, but I think that is pushing it, that casting.
Val says Dalton is the best Bond for him. Yep. One real nerd says Sean, because he's Scottish, the first Bond. But what about Never Say Never Again? The film that was a non-Cubby film without permission and the director. Yeah, but there's a story behind that as to why that was made, and it's a very legal thing. And there's a documentary, I think it's on Amazon.
It's Thunderball, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's all to do with the writer and the rights. And apparently Fleming gave away the rights to this other guy. I forget what his name was, but and that's why that was made. But that's all been resolved now. But
Never Say Never is essentially a remake of Thunderball.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's that story.
But this guy claimed that his story was his, and it was nothing to do with Fleming. And there was so much legal stuff going on for years and years. And the guy's passed away now, but his family have kind of now resolved it all because it just went on. And as I say, there's an interesting documentary. I think it's called, I forget what it's called now, but yeah, it's a very good documentary anyway, a Bond documentary. It's well worth checking out. I can't think of the name of it, but there we go. Okay, so Gareth says afternoon. Hi, Gareth. Thanks for popping in. Okay, so One Real Nerd says, what about Modesty Blaze? Monica Vitti, 1966, which is now available on Blu-ray. Keno Lorber, which is similar to early Bond transfer. Love female action. I've not heard of that. Has anyone else?
No.
Can't say I have.
Right, Ian?
I've heard that name. Yeah, I think I have heard that name. There's a whole series of that kind of sort of, I remember characters in like 60s that had sort of, they were almost like sub James Bond. Like Dean Martin played a character called Matt Helm, and I don't know if that is similar, but it could be. I don't know. I've heard that name.
Sure.
Yeah.
Danny says CEX had a leak upstairs, so they moved all the Blu-rays. I filmed it. Got a lot of filming done in CEX baths. CEX is pretty small. Went into the HMV, picked up Star Trek New Discovery. Yeah. Okay, so what else we got? Val says Morgan Freeman for the next Bond. I think he's a bit old now.
What a voice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, well, not really got any more comments coming in. So, is there anything else you'd like to discuss? We've got about 15, 20 minutes left. Have you been back to HMV recently, Dan?
Yeah, I've been to that newer one. I didn't actually buy anything because this time of year you don't get many good offers. I'm still trying to get the Terrifier 1 and 2 set, but seems to be out of stock everywhere. Blue Water went in HMV yesterday, but it just seems so expensive at the moment. So I actually put down what I had in my hand. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's some 88 releases I want, like there's Vigilante, but it's £20. I'm quite happy to wait for 2 for 15. And they've started doing NECA in now, which I showed that little bit in my video, but they're so expensive, the NECA. I mean, considering what I'm going to Toy Fair in the morning, they're about £5 to £10 cheaper at the Toy Fair.
It was interesting recently, sort of around the Black Friday sort of period. They were doing that 20% off everything, weren't they? And that included new releases, because I know you'd gone in there, AJ, that week, and it was quite surprising that they'd done that for everything.
Yeah, it wasn't. There were a few titles that were exempt from it, brand new titles, but there were others that were included in the 25% off out that day. On that day, and you get 25% off. That's how I picked up Planes, Trains and Automobiles, with the 25% off, and it released on that Monday.
Yeah, I've never known a retailer do that before with sort of brand new releases on that day. Yeah, obviously catalogue stuff. Usually it's the stuff they need to shift, but to a brand new title, that's again, does that kind of, give you the impression that these things aren't selling? They're not selling these new releases.
I think it's a kind of shoot yourself in the foot situation, in that next year, anything that comes out in the 2-3 weeks before Black Friday, why would you bother buying it brand new if you know that potentially in a couple of weeks' time they'll have their Black Friday sale start and you can get it 25% cheaper?
Yeah.
But then saying that, CEX, potentially you could have got that. You see them on the day, a couple of days later in CEX, and they're far cheaper than what they were brand new if you bought them at the beginning of the week.
I've noticed with the CEX on all these videos I've watched, they seem to have stacks of the Top Gun Maverick. I don't know, something must have been going on there. Been people trying to make some profit out of it or what? Because you look, and there were absolutely stacks of them. I don't know. I think something's going on there, surely. I don't know.
I know Big Paulie mentioned that because he saw them, and there were a load in CEXs I went in. And I think on Facebook it was that I saw that Pete from Play Tendo mentioned that CEX staff have been told to go out and buy them.
Really?
What? I'm wondering if they do sort of like supermarkets do. They have items called loss leaders.
Yeah.
Where they're happy to make a loss on an item because it gets you in store to then you purchase other stuff and they make the money back like that. So I've got to wonder whether there's a similar thing with CEX where they're happy to overspend on something to get you in the stores looking at the physical media in the hopes that you'll be picking up others and they'll make the money back that way. That's all I can put down to that. That's the only thing I can think of as to why.
Top Gun Maverick. I was in that Bexley Heath store. And I regret not picking it up. So it was £10 with the slipcase, and they had literally 3 rows deep. I went back there Tuesday, and it's gone up to £12 now, but they only have 1 left. I didn't pick it up, but it is strange how they can sell it. That was the same day it come out in HMV as well.
Yeah. But we did find out, didn't we, Matt, on the chat a couple of weeks ago when
Leo
was on, who managed the CEX store that they places sell to them. Zavvi sells to them. CEX will sell stuff. Obviously, there's the other way that people, I never did consider that. The people will go to somewhere like Sainsbury's or Tesco's and they will buy brand new. I know that Sainsbury's and Tesco's don't do physical media now, but Tesco's do have the stands every now and then when a big film comes out. They'll sell that particular film, that people will go in with their club card points, buy that physical item, then take it to CEX, cut their losses, but then they're getting cash.
But could it be like, say, Tesco's? Obviously, they've stopped the Maverick. Like you say, as a loss leader, they're not sort of buying physical media now. But once it's kind of gone past the sort of initial week or couple of weeks or whatever, are they then offloading it to CEX because they don't want it in their store because they're not stocking it? Could that possibly be a reason?
It's feasible. I don't know, but we're talking the same day here. Well, Dan mentioned we're talking same day items.
Where I worked, where I work, we physical media just sat on the shelf. We just used to send it back. I don't know how they got credited for that. But where I work now, we get so many people coming in daily asking for these new releases, but they wasn't buying them, but now they miss them. And there's nowhere in my local town to get anything unless it's CX. Where I work, the town where I work, should I say.
Yeah, interesting. Got a few more comments. Danny says the HMV in Bath was so small, they had the what if figures in there too. Okay. But again, the other thing we found out about CEX is that a lot of them are franchises, aren't they? They're not necessarily owned by CEX. So I think, is it half a CEX owned and the other half is franchised?
Yeah, I knew they'd been franchised because some of them will, some of them will argue the toss about, when the price goes back up, but they ain't changed the ticket. Some stores will honour the original price that was on the ticket, and some stores won't. And it's dependent upon whether they're franchised or not, as to whether they do or don't.
Yeah, I guess they can choose their own price range for things. I don't know. One real nerd says, what about the Indiana Jones film? The new one looks funny. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Have you seen the trailer?
I haven't watched the trailer. No, I'm not really. I think he struggled in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull for me. So yeah. I do love it, but I think I did want Chris Pratt to be new Indiana Jones, personally.
Yeah, it could have been good. Yeah. Ian, have you seen the trailer?
I did see it's a film that shouldn't have been made. To be honest, why have they done it? And then I look, what? I've got a question. What is the thing about this Phoebe Wally, whatever her name is? She made a series called Fleabag on BBC One, which everybody couldn't stop saying was the best thing ever, and it's not. Particularly, it's been done before, people talking to the camera. They made it sound, she was apparently involved in James Bond, wasn't she? What is it about this woman that everybody's going mad about? And of course, there she is in this Indiana Jones film. Cinema.
So I don't know, I heard a funny theory that it involves time travel. There's a lot of scenes in the film that are set in the past, like with the Germans and that, compared to the setting where he's older. I'm hoping that isn't the case. I really don't want time travel to be an element in Indiana Jones film. And that he sort of sacrifices himself and that she carries on the franchise, potentially, in a Disney Plus TV series. They're the sort of rumours I've been hearing. But I don't know. I watched the trailer. For me, like I've said to people before, anyone who comes to me has said to me, have you seen the trailer for Indiana Jones? It was fantastic. I'll just then link them to the trailer for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the very first teaser trailer, which was fantastic. And then you got the film. But like you said, Dan, he was past it in that one. And if you watch Crystal Skull again, you'll notice that most of Harrison Ford's action scenes are him sat down.
Yeah.
First bit on the rocket sled is a sat down fight. He hasn't got to do much. On the back of what's his name's bike, he sat on the back of the bike in that action segment. The scene where he's in the truck through the forest, he sat in that action segment. Obviously, when they go off of in the car off of the waterfalls, it's segments where, and interestingly, in the latest season of Star Trek Picard, you saw the same with Patrick Stewart. He was sat down so much throughout the series that, you know, if they could sit him down, they would sit him down, and that's how it looks with Harrison Ford. Yeah.
Well, Big Paul is just saying he believes the start of Indy 5 uses flashbacks. So
yeah, I hope it goes that way.
Film fanatic, get your teeth in. All right, thanks for joining me.
No.
And he says he watched all of Picard season 2. I loved it, but the ending was weak.
I liked the goodbye with Q. I thought that was very, very strong. But it was a weak series. The whole series I thought was very weak. It utilized, that's the other thing, it utilized so much, you know, in that, you know, if I recall correctly, it made it look like you had Q in there, you had the Borg in there, you had time travel in there, you had potentially from the adverts, you had the mirror dimension almost, in that they went back into a different alternate reality, you know. So you're playing on all these things that are loved by, and you had Data again, or Brent Spiner. You had all these 5 elements that when you go to someone who's a Trek lover and say, what did you like about Star Trek? I love Data, I loved the mirror universe, I loved Q, I loved the time travel and the whale one. Do you see what I mean? It's like it was throwing everything at the wall in that Star Trek series to play into what people liked about Trek. And that really wound me up.
I just think of your
Do you think the Borg? The Borg have been ruined. The Borg used to be frightened of the Borg. But they got overused. The Borg were a great villain, but oh my, what have they done to the Borg?
Ultimately, it was Voyager. I mean, I know the Borg came back in Next Generation a lot, but ultimately Voyager was the one that weakened them so much that they were a joke by the end.
Such a great villain, wasn't it? An idea, the Borg. They were really threatening, but now look, the Borg Queen. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Danny
says they had all the Resident Evil PlayStation 1 games in CEX. Wanted to pick them up, that were expensive. Yeah, I can remember playing those back in the day. Loved those games.
I've probably got some of them. I've probably got some of them sat in a cupboard, not in mine, in Italy, in the ex-in-law's house.
I've still got PS1. Still got it.
Yeah, I've got one over there. It will never come back to
me. Yeah. Well, there's still a few more comments here, but I mean, it's nearly 4 o'clock. So, is everyone okay to stay on for a few more minutes, or?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay. Dimension Scott says, as a guy who likes video games, last night was the Game Awards. The best trailer was Tekken 8. Wow. I can remember Tekken and Suicide Squad Kills. The Justice League and the Batman will be played by Kevin Conroy one last time.
Oh, so he voiced, fantastic. Kevin Conroy's voice for Batman was second to none. Kevin Conroy was fantastic. Animated series and Batman Beyond, as well as a lot of other, he came back and voiced Batman a few other times after that as well. But yeah. Oh, look, that's even worse.
Big Paulie says, high hopes for Picard season 3, reuniting TNG cast and a new Enterprise. Could be the farewell we should have had instead of Nemesis. Yeah, I still think they should leave it. I don't know, trying to recreate the past doesn't always work.
See, I'm going in optimistic at best, because Picard season 1 looked fantastic, had a fantastic first episode, and then it was weak. Season 2, again, fantastic first episode and weak. It's all in the writing. It's all in the writing. Yeah. If they make the same mistakes as the other seasons, where characters don't need to be there, you know, yeah, it's just, that's the worry I have. That's all I can say.
And he says, Picard and his mother's scenes I felt very touching. I couldn't believe they brought Wesley back. Film fanatic, just watch Spirited for the second time. It is a brilliant film, and the second time watching is as good as the first, or maybe even 10 out of 10. Yeah, I'm interested to watch this Spirited. I know you're saying it's pretty much your favourite Christmas
you've got
film
You've got two opposing thoughts on this video at the moment. Dan didn't like it, did you, Dan?
I couldn't. I couldn't put myself through. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's my mood, but Will Ferrell grates on me. I don't like Elf. That may be very controversial. I just don't like the film.
I'm not a big fan of that.
I think it's him. I don't see the fascination in the bloke. He's no Jim Carrey. I know he's not trying to be, but that was a funny man. I love watching Ryan Reynolds. You know, put anyone else in it, I'd give it a go.
Yeah, I think it does. A lot of stuff projects do hinder on whether you like the person in it or not. Will Ferrell, for me, he works, but some of his stuff I can leave it. There's certain films that he has done that just haven't worked for me, that don't work for me. The first Anchorman, I found, and people love it, I found to be devoid of any comedy. There was nothing that made me laugh in it. And the same, and Talladega Nights is a film that I've actually got it. I picked it up for cheap in CEX to give it a watch, because it's a film that it's never intrigued me whatsoever. So he does these projects which are like, not really into it. So yeah, I understand how. But for the most part, I like Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, and the film just worked for me. I think I was in the right mood for it. Let's just say that.
I think we'll end it here, because Bowles just says, take care, lads, got to shoot off. Yep. And I think thanks for all the comments. I know we haven't read out a few of them, but I think we'll call it a day now. Poor old AJ is sort of going into darkness there.
Well, I can't put light on, but it just goes because it's them funny bulbs with all the elements that are thingy. It's a warm light, and it just makes me look red.
That's fine. Dimension says goodbye, laters. Yep. Paulie says enjoyable stream. Thanks for popping in.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks everyone for watching and commenting. I think it's been a great conversation, and please come back next time.
I do like delving into the awkward questions and exploring.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, they're good topics. I mean, you know,
we shouldn't shy away from them.
No, absolutely not.
But anyway.
Okay, so I think we'll end it, and take care, everyone. Thanks for joining, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.